see my grandson tonight. It's a family night for us. So, good morning. Good morning. Thanks, you guys, for being patient with me. I'm trying to get my life back on schedule. But this morning, I promised to talk about weight loss drugs a little bit from the lens of one of my favorite mentors, the people I look up to, Dr. Benjamin Bickman. So it's going to be kind of a high level overview. I'm not going to get into all the little details because quite honestly, I don't know them all. But I just want to go over what they're prescribing for medications, what Dr. Bickman is saying is going on with them and what he thinks of them. And it kind of leads into why I'm not a proponent of those. Now, before we get started, where's everybody coming in from? And we will talk about the 36 and 12 fast I'm doing. We're going to talk about insulin resistance. We're going to talk about how you can overcome insulin resistance. By the way, insulin resistance has as much to do with your weight as anything else. And we need to understand that if we really want to address this long term without long term health implications. So I get it. There's people out there who just want to lose the weight. To hell with the thought that they could cost themselves their gallbladder or their liver or their pancreas or their thyroid or whatever. They don't care. Just get the weight off, right? So if that's you, that's fine. That's your choice, but that's not this side of the tracks. Here, we're trying to figure out how to take care of our bodies in a more natural and healthy way and support everything that's going on in our bodies. And that may mean that weight loss for some may take a little bit longer, but you'll maintain more health and muscle mass along the way. So, all right, let's dive in. For first of all, where's everybody from? I'm all up in Maryland, as always, although I think we're like 99.99% of the way sure we'll be moving to Kentucky at the end of this year. So I'm a life path 5, which means I get to travel a lot and move a lot. I guess that's been my life. Western Maryland, Kathy, that's amazing. So I'm over in the Bel Air area, Washington State. Washington, you guys make me feel at home. So I lived in Washington State for a number of years and grew up in the panhandle of North Idaho. I remember as a kid, some of our favorite trips, my favorite trips, were to Seattle back in the day when the pier was just, was much cleaner and it was a lot of fun to go to. I have a lot of good memories from heading to Seattle, and actually one of the coaches that trained me for world championships is in the Seattle area, so I would travel up there to train and learn all the goodness that I needed to know to get to that level. So Washington State's amazing. Idaho is amazing. Although, you guys, funny story before we head into everything while people are hopping on, I went into my leasing officer this yesterday to hand over the rent, and I was talking to them, and I said, you have to realize, and I'm so sorry, Idaho, but I said, you have to realize I came from Idaho. Like in 60 years, I've never gotten a rent deposit back from any place I rented, even though I cleaned diligently. So the last place I left here in Maryland, I actually got my deposit back, and I about fell over. Like they look at me like I'm crazy out here for all the things I marked down on the walkthrough report. But back in Idaho, man, if I didn't mark all those things down, I would have been knocked for it. So anyway, that's my Idaho story for today. Yeah, the west side of Washington is not so pretty now. It's really sad what's happened to it over the last, I don't know, 20 years. Um, it's just gotten to be, it's probably been 10 or 11 years since I've been to that side just because of all the change. Don't need to go there anymore. So, all right. So we're going to hop in and talk about insulin resistance. And thanks to those of you guys who participated. We're going to talk about the weight loss drugs. So what I want everybody to understand first is, and we're going to go back to this. I was laying in bed this morning realizing I talk as if y'all have been with me since the dawn of time. And some of you are just finding me, so you don't know. So I'm going to repeat this message every morning so everybody understands what's happening. We're immersed. We're like immersed in this food environment that's just not healthy for us. And we all know that. If we check in and do a real check-in, everyone will say, no, our food is just not healthy for us right now. So it's not just the boxed and packaged foods, it's the raw or organic foods. They've all either been modified, changed, manufactured, whatever. Nutrients that are vital to us having health have been stripped out in the the reach for making things more delectable and tasty, right? So we have too much of this food that's just too available in our human history. It's rare that a genetic type from any area had this much food available to them all year round. And so we've kind of become gluttonous. Let's just be honest. We've become gluttonous. We don't need to eat as much as we do. And I'm going to include me in that. This is not just like pointing a finger. This is like acceptance for myself. But we have all this food and we're eating it way too often. And so we hear all these gurus talk about eat every 2 hours, it will speed up your metabolism. There is no study that shows that eating every 2 hours speeds up your metabolism. In fact, it does the opposite. It slows down your metabolism. What is your metabolism? It's your body's rate at which it burns energy. So if we're wanting to burn energy, which fat is energy, right? If we're wanting to burn energy and stay lean and fit and running on all cylinders, we need to make sure that all the processes in our metabolism are happening correctly. I particularly focus on insulin, but there are a number of other hormones like cortisol and whatnot that get into play. But we're going to talk about insulin because it's one of the major regulators of your metabolic rate, of how metabolically healthy you are, of what's happening with all of this, how you burn energy, how quickly you burn energy, and what happens to the energy when it decides to burn in your body. So, insulin is a hormone. And it's not the body's need for insulin itself per se, but it's the body's need for the energy that insulin is delivering into the cells. In a normal body, we have just enough insulin to come out to give that energy to every single cell in the body so that the body can function and have the energy it needs to just do its job, whether it's growth, whether it's contracting muscles, whatever that function is, it needs that energy. So every single cell has insulin receptors on it. It's the insulin is just transporting the energy packets. But insulin is important. We have to be receptive to insulin to get that energy into the cells so that the cells can function. And in this environment of food that's been stripped of fibers and nutrients, that's turning into glucose too quickly in the system, and then we're eating it all the time, snacks and all this stuff, then we have too much blood sugar, right? But here's the conundrum. We're not catching it because it's not really a disease of too much blood sugar. It's a disease of too much insulin. Now, when we have too much blood sugar, more than 1 teaspoon in our bloodstream at any given point in time, we start to have this cue from the brain that says, oh, pancreas, you got to get to work. Now, the pancreas delivers a lot of hormones to the body, but the one we're going to talk about today is insulin. So insulin comes out, it starts to transport all these packages. Great. Insulin's done its job. It wants to start coming down. But guess what? We eat again, and then we eat something that's high in carbohydrates or that converts to carbohydrates really quickly, and up goes insulin. Now, just like anybody, we start to train it. We train all these things in our body. So when we have too much blood sugar and insulin is having to come out high all the time, pretty soon insulin's like, okay, this is my job. This is the level I'm supposed to be at. And I'm going to stay here. I'm going to stay here diligently because this person, they're going to eat again. I'm going to be needed. So I'm going to stay out here. When we get to that kind of state, we're insulin resistant because what happens is there's too much insulin in the system too often, and the cells are feeling inundated. They're just feeling like overwhelmed with insulin. And so it starts to cause this dysfunction body-wide of insulin dysregulation. So some cells are not going to take up the energy. Some cells are going to take up too much. But now instead of a body that's running like a smoothly, finely tuned car, we're running like a car with a couple of cylinders off, maybe a head gasket blown, maybe an oil change needs, and we're like clunking and we're chunking. And that's what's happening in our body with insulin resistance. So when we look at that and we understand that insulin resistance is a disease of improper nutrients, because when we take it one step further, it's the fact that the carbohydrates are delivering to our system too quickly. that causes the problem. So, yeah, we all probably eat too much carbohydrates, but the carbohydrates we're eating now is delivering into our bloodstream much more quickly than it ever has, especially in my 60 years of life. It's just the food has drastically changed. So, what we're deficient in is the nutrients that help us keep the blood sugars under control. We're not deficient in medications. Did a medication deficiency get you overweight or having brain fog or having bleeding teeth and gums or I don't know, sleep apnea or arthritis or Alzheimer's or any of these things? No, it actually boils down to a nutritional deficiency. So we're going to go over that in a little bit. Now, the weight loss drugs, though, because we haven't understood this until recently, and so now what's happening is we're starting to get educated about insulin resistance. I've learned so much in the last 3 years since I started my journey that it's insane that even though I worked in doctors' offices, hormone offices, no one ever talked about it. And more and more doctors are standing up and saying, hey, we were never taught this. This is kind of new science to us. And then more and more doctors are admitting that they never even had a nutritional class. So if we're dealing with something that's a nutritional disorder, how is a doctor going to know what to give you outside of what they've been taught in a textbook by Big Pharma who wants to push their drugs? Okay, so regardless, and look, if you're doing a weight loss drug, that's your choice, right? I don't choose that. So that's just where I'm at. Yesterday we talked about diabetic drugs. But today I got to find my notes because I do have to make notes, you guys. And all the drugs. Because look, number one, I've not been on all of these drugs. So I don't think that there's outside of Ozempic, which not Ozempic, metformin, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Have I been on any of those weight loss drugs? I was just too terrified of the side effects of them. And, so I just never did them. And that's what I have a problem with them for, is that they're causing a lot of weight loss, but at what cost? So how to lower high blood pressure? Thank you for the question. How to lower high blood pressure is just getting those blood sugars down and the insulin down. And I'm going to give you a more natural solution here in a minute. Part of it, though, is what I'm about to do this morning. I have an old packet. This is the tea I drink every morning. So I just tear this tea open. And this is my morning ritual. I don't have to steep anything. I did warm my water up. So this is going to be hot lemon ginger tea this morning. I didn't bring a spoon, so I'm going to do my favorite packet trick. But this is the tea I drink every morning. And as we go along, I'm going to be referencing this tea a little bit because it has natural effects to what some of the weight loss drugs are doing in your body. Only it's not forcing your body to go past what the body wants to do. So it's a more natural, healthy way to get there. That could mean that it may take some longer time for some people, but I've had a guy who's lost over 160 pounds just by doing this tea and the balance, got his blood pressure under control, and a woman who's lost now over 130 pounds in the last year and a half just doing the tea and the balance. And we have more and more and more stories of that, and I'll show you some pictures later. But refined white sugar, hydrogen are a primary cause of Western disease and death. I wouldn't necessarily disagree with that. I think that they're the biggest causes of part of what's going on. And it's not just the corn oil, it's all of the seed oils. You guys, when you talk about oils, and we're going to talk about those in a little bit, if you can grab it and squeeze it and get oil out of it, it's probably an oil you're meant to ingest. If it's not something like, you think about an avocado, that's pretty oily when you squeeze that. Coconut, the meat of a coconut's pretty oily when you squeeze that. Olives are pretty oily when they're ripe and you squeeze them. Those are all good sources of oil. But when we start to look at some of the seed oils and whatnot, they are not what I would deem healthy for us. I notice in my own life, when I get out and I get to these refined oils, because I've eaten out at a restaurant or something, I immediately feel it. My body hurts. I have gastritis because I have no gallbladder. I have horrible movement with the bowels. It's not pretty. So I would agree, refined white sugar. And I think I do have, I shouldn't say I don't have. I have a very small amount of white sugar in my house. When I don't bake a lot. When I do, I try to use stevia or monk fruit. But look, so we'll get back to the drugs. And any questions about the drugs, we're going to get that. The tea, I'm going to go over that. But let's talk about how some of the drugs work, because there's components in some of these drugs that are forcing your body into a state that the tea does naturally without making your body go too far into a state that it doesn't want to do. So you guys, anytime something is dysregulated in your body, like I said, you're training it. What I want you to think as I talk about these weight loss drugs, this is my opinion. This is not a science-backed opinion. This is my opinion just from the years of stuff I've known. So I know that when people are doing, like guys are doing testosterone injections from my time in sports, right? That what happens is they're training their body that it doesn't need to produce testosterone. So now the body's like, oh, well, you're going to give me this testosterone. You're going to force this to happen so I don't need to do it anymore. And in effect, the body becomes lazy and it doesn't do that job anymore because you've overridden it. It's like override. Nope, I don't care what you want to do. I'm going to do something different. I think we need to look at most drugs in that factor and understand that in some cases it's good, like in infection or sepsis. We need to get that. We need to boost the body. We need to get the body with getting all of that inflammation and infection out of the body, right? And sometimes the body needs assistance. But in most of these cases, it's not. So the first one that Dr. Bickman was talking about on his, and you can go check him out, Metabolic Classroom, amazing guy to watch. He also used to work for the company that does the system that I do. And he was actually in this episode, they were talking about Unimate and its effects on being a GLP-1 agonist. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit, what a GLP-1 agonist is. So orlistatin, or Ali, is the first one he talked about. So what that drug is doing is it's changing how you metabolize fat. So there's a chemical called lipase that's produced from the pancreas that helps you break down fat. What this drug is doing is it's slowing down. I've got to read my notes here. Oh yeah, okay. So what the drug is doing is it's inhibiting that production from the pancreas. So it's not allowing fat to be broken down and digested properly. It's inhibiting the digestion of fat. So we're talking about dietary fats. So that's great. You're taking less fat in, you're taking less calories in. But one of the clues here is fats aren't making you fat unless you're doing them in excess, right? Which some of us are with all the fried foods we're eating. But about a third of the fat that these people eat on this Ali or orlistatin are not, about a third of that fat is not getting digested. So guess what happens when you don't digest the fat? It gets pushed out, right, as waste. So now all of that fat that should have been broken down into triglycerides and delivered into the bloodstream, so it is helping reduce triglycerides because it's reducing the amount of fat that you're taking in, but it leaves that in your intestine. So now your feces becomes laden with this fat. So guess what happens? You end up having explosive diarrhea, gas and bloating. It can cause nausea. It can cause horrible accidents, like when you feel like you got to go to the bathroom, you got to be near a bathroom, or it could be devastating for your day. So it's runny, oily poop, nausea, flatulence, diarrhea. Those are some of the side effects of you not digesting the fat that you're ingesting. So why don't we just watch the fat that we're ingesting and ingest the right type? I don't know. I think that would be a simpler answer. So then there's one, I'm sure everybody remembers, maybe not everybody, but people my age. Can you guys remember the fen craze? Does anybody put a 1 in the chat if you remember the fen phase, when it was Phentermine, and what was the other one? Yeah. Okay. So I don't remember the second one now, which I feel bad for because I think my mother did fen for a while to try and start losing weight, and it caused her some issues. Man, some of us older people, we got thrown all the drugs that nobody understood, and there's so many issues now. All right. So phentermine, the one part of the fen. It also comes as Lamira and Apex D, I think is what it's called. Okay, so it's an anorectic. So it decreases brain levels of norepinephrine. Um, and why is that important? So norepinephrine is part of the fight or flight response. When the norepinephrine is down, or it's actually increasing the norepinephrine, sorry, it reduces hunger and releases leptin, which also reduces your appetite. So now that drug, phentermine, is reducing your appetite in your brain, and making you feel more satiated through two different pathways. But at the same time, it's elevating your fight or flight response. So people on phentermine feel jittery and angry and anxiety laden, and they just like tend to pop off quicker because their fight or flight response is so high all the time. It's come on, what am I thinking of anyway? But it also causes insomnia and high blood pressure. Glucophage and lower back pain on another one. Like I can do that on another day. I don't think I will have time to get into that, and I need to do a little bit more research on what I want to say with that. Okay, so phentermine. Yes, it causes weight loss. It speeds you up. It shuts down your satiety levels in your brain. But in the fact of it shutting down, it increases satiety and shuts down hunger. But as an action of doing that, it's causing your heart rate to be high all the time and you to be in this anxious, like ready to go state all the time. So that's something to know with that one. Then we look at, I flipped the book instead of, then we're going to look at one that's phentermine and another drug called topiramate. This combination, and he never really said what the combination was, and I didn't have time to look it up, but it does the same thing. So it has all the same actions of phentermine, giving you satiety, shutting down your hunger, but the topiramate is adding to those satiety and hunger levels, but it's also altering the way your food tastes. So now food isn't as pleasurable or as palatable. So it takes away the joy of eating. And people just, okay, so I'm not hungry. Food doesn't taste good anyway. I'm just not going to eat. Um, so it's increasing energy expenditure. Also, so that's okay. The last thing is that he was saying is yes, it creates more weight loss when you combine the topiramate with the phentermine, but again, at what cost? You only can decide that. And I'm going to tell you about a more natural solution in a minute. But that one can cause dry mouth, constipation, numbness in your hands and feet, and it's like on the blacklist for pregnancy. If you're trying to get pregnant or are pregnant, this is not a drug for you. Okay, then we're going to dive into the GLP-1s. I will go over GLP-1s a little bit more in detail later this week. But GLP-1s, glucagon-like peptide 1. So GLP-1 agonists is what they are. So that's semaglutide, Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro, Trulicity. All of these are in this class. What they're doing is they're mimicking the action of a natural component called GLP-1 in the body, but it's really just like insulin is too high, it's pushing this level too high for what the body wants to produce. So part of this, what's happening with these, you guys, I'm going to admit, when I was diving into this part, I'm like, dude, I need to have a way better understanding of glucagon. So I'm going to be doing some research on glucagon. But I always talk about two components to the metabolism: insulin and glucagon. So when we're fasting, glucagon comes out. The interesting thing that I'm finding is, okay, so I've always talked about glucagon being a spender and all of that, but what glucagon really does is it takes this junk cells in the body, and or fat cells or whatever, and it cues the body to continue to produce glucose without the presence of insulin, because it's breaking down stuff, uh, fats and stuff from the liver. I'm having too many words roll through my head at the moment. So it helps the liver, it cues the liver to break down those fats, and so you have more glucose going back into, or glycogen. It's breaking down glycogen into the little glucose packets that we can use for energy, and therefore keeping your blood sugar level stable. So glucagon is not just there to help with the eating up the junk cells. What glucagon really is there for is to regulate blood sugar when insulin is down. So it's not going to allow your body to drop too low with blood sugars. But the lower your blood sugars go and the lower your insulin goes, then the more likely you are to start losing weight. So the glucagon-like peptides are reducing the action of glucagon, hopefully at the same time reducing the sugars when we're in a fasted state, when we're in an unfed state, and the insulin in an unfed state. So that's part of what it's doing, but it's causing some satiety clues in the brain and in the gut while all of that's happening. So one of the number one action that Bickman talked about with glucagon-like peptides is this, and I talked about it yesterday. It slows gastric emptying. So it's not just through the intestinal tract, it's through the stomach. So now you've eaten food, and because it slows the contraction rate of the gut, the food sits in your stomach much longer. And in the absence of fiber that helps with the delivery of some of the sugar, it can kind of ferment in the gut. Now, when that food is sitting there in the gut, you can get acid reflux. You can get the gassy, nasty burps. You can have flatulence. You can have gas and distension, and you can definitely have either diarrhea or constipation because of this slowed emptying of the gut with GLP-1s. The action of allowing the gut to slow less quickly is one of the ways that it works, because you're cued that you're full because the meal you just ate isn't going through your digestive system the way it should. Now, I'm going to stop for a second because I do talk about our balance in doing a similar thing, right? When the balance gets in your system, because of the 7 different fibers, what it's doing, how it's creating satiety, is you drink it 10 minutes before and it starts to gel up and swell up in your gut. So now you have nutrients that are in your gut. Now you have fibers that are in your gut that are going to help the intestines and help the probiotics in your gut. And it's making you feel full because of that distension. When you do eat, it does encapsulate the food you eat. So it has a slowing down effect of pushing the food through, but in a healthier way, because we're still feeding the probiotics. We're not affecting how the stomach contracts. We're just saying, hey, this food isn't converting as quickly, so it's going to hang out a little longer. But it's not affecting how any of the stuff in this gut area works. Okay, it's not slowing it down, it's not paralyzing it, it's not any of that. That's one of the big complications that they're starting to see lawsuits from with these GLP-1 drugs, is this slowed or delayed gastric emptying is causing an ileus, or a blockage in the intestinal tract, and it can be, you'll hear about it called gastroparesis. They just can't move this mass of digested, undigested food through, and it can become very toxic. And it can make somebody, I knew someone who had gastroparesis before I understood what all of this is, and she was constantly in the hospital for blockages about once a month. So it can be very damaging and unhealthy. It could actually even cost you your life. And there are more and more people are coming out talking about that peristalsis, gastroparesis with these drugs. The second thing that it does is it inhibits glucagon production. So what I was starting to say is when glucagon goes down, it's not queuing in this fasted state, this not queuing the liver to convert those glycogen stores into glucose. So it's reducing your blood sugar in that way. And then that's just one of the actions of it. But with these drugs, guys, I'm struggling today. Can you tell? With these drugs, you're going to end up with diarrhea, constipation, central nervous system disorders. They've said. Oh, the other thing is it generates new fat cell growth. So the GLP-1s, and I know people get mad about this and they like want to yell at me about it, but science is the science is the science is the science. So there's that. But these drugs do cause you to duplicate fat cells for many, many people. So what happens is that instead of, and you're like, but there's weight loss going on. Well, yeah, because the more fat cells that you have that are not over full, the less insulin resistance those fat cells are, and the more your metabolism works. It also has to do with the mitochondria in your system. The more frequent and smaller fat cells tend to allow mitochondrial function and things like estrogen to function more properly. And I believe there's a tie into thyroid, but so those drugs are causing fat cell growth. So you lose the fat when you're on the drug. You go off the drug. You have never addressed what you were doing that caused the weight to go on in the first place. You don't understand why you got insulin resistant in the first place. And you're just doing this drug to help save me. At the end, you can have all these complications, but now you likely have maybe twice as many fat cells as you had before. So when you go back to the same environment and haven't changed that, what do you think will happen? So cinders, what's the solution? We're going to get to that just about now. So I talked about metformin yesterday, so we don't need to talk about that much today unless anybody wants. But what's the solution? Really, what I stumbled on that saved my life, got me off of 13 different medications. I couldn't stand metformin, which was one of the drugs they threw at me. And I lost 50 pounds and got my health under control for the first time in years. Is this a tea I drink in the morning and a pre-meal drink that I have before anything I eat? Why? Because what they're doing is just plugging these nutritional gaps. They're giving our body the chance to function in the way that it was meant to function before our food got jacked up. Okay. So the tea that I'm drinking in the morning gives me mental clarity and energy. My words will probably start coming out better now that I have my tea, but it has an effect on brain function. So you're happier, you're more alert, you can just function better. Like remembering things is so much easier for me when I'm drinking the tea. But it was also having some of the similar actions of the GLP-1 agonists in that this naturally stimulates centers in the brain that help you shut down hunger. So you feel more satiated, partly because it's getting nutrients to the brain that the brain hasn't gotten before. When we're insulin resistant, the brain is insulin resistant as well. The biggest thing that the brain uses for energy is glucose. So if the brain isn't getting glucose, you have brain fog, you have anxiety, you have depression. With all of that comes overeating and mood disorders and binging and all of that stuff. So the tea helps shut down those hunger cues, but while elevating my mood and my satiety. So I'm not hungry and I feel great. And so that's the tea. But it's also really high in vitamins like A, B, D, E, K, a variety of Bs, and vitamin C as well. So it's really high in nutrients, but it has some other components in it that really work well with our bodies. Now, the tea is put through a patented process. You can't get it anywhere else in the world. No other company can do this process. But so it's taken through a 5-step patented process. I'm just going to get to the end. The end part is that not only is it extracted and concentrated to be about 375 times the strength of a normal yerba mate tea, it's been taken through this hyper pure process that removes pesticides, toxins, and PAHs from fire roasting. So now highly potent, extremely pure, and I'm not getting all the toxicity, I'm getting all the benefit. And I drink it every morning. Then the second part of it is now we're understanding that blood glucose gets dysregulated, right? So we have food that comes in, it turns to glucose too quickly, that spikes our blood glucose. When our blood glucose is spiked, our insulin gets spiked. In the end, what we're trying to do is get those glucose levels down when we eat so we can get the insulin levels down. Getting the insulin down is the cue. So what I do now is I before I eat anything, I have this. And it's as simple as you guys watched me do the tea earlier. Same thing with this. I'll put about this much water. You guys, I do not fill my bottle up with water. I don't even put it up to there. I put it about half that much of water. Pour this in, shake it about 4 times, drink it down. That's it. 10 minutes before I eat. Now it's gelling up. It's protecting me from the sugars breaking down too quickly, from the fats breaking down too quickly, but it's not stopping them from digesting. It's slowing down how quickly they get into the bloodstream. So it's more like a time release capsule instead of just like an IV hit to the bloodstream. So a tea in the morning and a pre-meal drink before I eat anything. Why not the line level, Jeep Girl? Why not here? Because I have a stricture in my throat, which has been healing and it's much better, but it's hard for me to drink that much liquid that quickly. And you know that Jeep Girl's on the system. You know that when you mix this up, if you don't drink it, it's so potent, unlike Benefiber or Metamucil, it's so potent that it's going to thicken up and become more like an orange pudding if you don't drink it right away. So I'm just concerned with getting the fibers in and the nutrients in. I'm not concerned with the liquid intake in that moment. So I only put it down to about here, mixes up fine. If you drink it right away, it's good. I don't have to gulp as much water. I don't have to do any of that. The water level doesn't mean anything to the efficacy. It's just how thick it is to go down. And if you drink it right away, it still isn't going to be thick yet. Try it. I mean, it just makes it so much easier for me. It's so much less. I mean, I love drinks. Everybody knows I love to hydrate. So I always have some kind of drink cup or 3 around me. In fact, there's this, and this on my desk all right now. So hot tea, cold tea, water. I love to drink, but I just don't want to have to force myself to drink that much just before I eat. Okay. All right, so that's the natural solution. A tea in the morning, a pre-meal drink before you eat anything. You can get it in my profile link. Now, the system, that's what I did to lose 55 pounds, to reverse my diabetes, to get my blood pressure down, to help my sleep apnea, to do all of that. You guys, here's the thing. Please understand. I am not on here claiming that the system is going to cure your life, but it sure is going to do this. We all have an elephant in our room, and that elephant is called insulin resistance. This is what happened on my own journey. I was going into the doctor with so many complaints, all of the stuff above, and the doctors were like throwing a dart here, throwing a dart there. Like everywhere we go, we're trying to like figure out this thing, and Misha's falling apart, and we don't know what's happening to Misha. Well, what was happening was insulin resistance, and nobody caught it. So all of that was happening. Nobody was catching it. The reason I love this is because after all the medications and stuff they put me on, I wasn't getting better, but I am now. But the insulin resistance was the big key, right? Do I still have some things going on? Yeah, I do. So now I can look at those things because the elephant, the blood sugar dysregulation, the insulin dysregulation, that elephant is out of the room. Now what's left, we can take a look at. Misha's menopausal. I'm menopausal. Don't know why I'm talking about myself in third person, but so estrogen levels are down, thyroid levels are down. They're still in normal range, but they're not optimal. That means, there's going to be different things going on. So now we address those things because this bigger piece that had to do with all of this is taken care of. That's what I'm talking about. Now, in the do extra things category, I'm doing this 36 and 12 fast. Apple cider vinegar before every meal is helpful as well. Um, I wouldn't say no to it, but I do apple cider vinegar in the mornings when I can remember. But here's the thing I'm going to ask. Okay. Apple cider vinegar is a great cue, but it's not giving you fiber that's feeding your probiotics. It's not helping your intestines work. It's not doing any of that. It's not giving you the same actions as this. Would I add apple cider vinegar to what I'm doing? Yes. But the other thing is when I travel, I can't take apple cider vinegar through the airport. Okay? Can't take it. So now what? Now what do I do when I'm in an airport or on an airplane and or someplace where I don't have a jug of apple cider vinegar with me? What am I going to do? This travels with me everywhere, and it's as easy as mix it in water. But it's also giving me all of those benefits of now apple cider has some great benefits. I'm not dissing apple cider. I'm just saying apple cider could be an addition to this and it would work great that way. Okay, so the 36 and 12 fast. If you've missed it, what this is I'm fasting right now because I'm trying to get myself back on track from a few months of mental, excitement, moving, Christmas, just stuff, right? So with my brain, I've got to get myself back on track, and that means I need a better schedule. So I'm doing a 36 and 12 fast, which means my last meal was today's Wednesday. So Monday night at about 7 p.m. was my last meal. So right now I'm 38 and a half hours into a fast. Now, why would I do that? Well, it's not about calorie restriction for me. It's about autophagy and letting my body heal. So some of this excess skin that I want to heal up, some of the wrinkly skin that I'm starting to have because I'm older, I want it to tighten up. Autophagy helps with that. Autophagy helps build healthier brain cells. It helps build healthier gut cells. It helps build healthier muscle cells. So I want to get into that stage of autophagy. Most of us are not getting into that until, we generally say about 14 hours, but the truth is many of us are not getting into that until about 17 hours. And it peaks somewhere around where it increases by 300%, I think, at 24 hours. And it doesn't really peak out till 72. I'm not doing a 3-day fast right now. I'm just doing this every other day. So every odd day of the month, I'll be fasting. What does that look like for me? That's water, this tea, coffee, bone broth. And that's pretty much what I drink on my fasting days. Day one sucked because I had gotten so out of line with my own ideologies that my diet was horrible. I'm going to admit it was horrible. And I needed to get back on track. So day one sucked. I had a lot of hunger pains. I had a lot of, I want to eat something. But the cool thing with the 36 and 12-hour fast to get into that really amped up fat burning state, look, when your body's really needing to do the work, you're going to be sleeping, which is the perfect time for your body to do what they call rest and digest. So it's the perfect time for all that to be going on for you to build those healthy cells. So at 4 p.m. in the afternoon, when you start getting hungry, you're just like, I just have a few more hours before I go to bed. I wake up the next morning and I can have whatever I want. Not sure what I'm eating this morning, not even sure what I'm eating for lunch, but I'll come up with something that's high in protein, high in fats, and really dense in nutrients so that I can get in everything I need today. As far as nutrients goes, I'm not counting calories, so that my body still is functioning when I go into my next 36-hour fast. So today's focused on protein and fats and limiting the carbohydrates. Does it mean I'm not going to have them? No. My last eating day, I only ate 2 meals and I had one of my fat laden protein shakes. So 45 grams of protein and a good amount of fats and very little carbohydrates. But I did have a half a blueberry muffin. Then for dinner, I had a croissant with like a whole pile of ham and some egg and some cheese on it. Not a perfect day of eating, but that's what I ate, and I'm fine. I do supplement once in a while, but the 36 and 12. So today is an eating day. I will try to do better to show what I do eat today. Eggs are really important. It was interesting. I didn't get to watch it this morning. Dr. Huberman was talking about eggs and eating like 4 eggs a day and the importance on the brain. So I want to check that out because I love eggs. And I try to eat 2 to 3 a day anyway. All right. So yesterday's fast, you guys, the third day of fasting was easy. It didn't, and here's the thing, once you start to train your body to be more metabolically flexible, switching between sugar burning and fat burning, the easier it becomes for your body to be metabolically flexible and to not have those horrible hunger cues. Okay. So it's easier than ever. Yes, I've lost some weight doing the fast already. And I took some pictures at the beginning, and I will check in to see how everything is going and wrote down a bunch of notes about the things I was starting to notice feeling off in my body again. But the 36 and 12 fasting is so much more than weight loss. It's about regeneration. It's about getting your cells healthy again after 40 years of being unhealthy. It takes a little extra. So one of the things I thought about this morning and I want to impart before I hop off today is, look, change only happens when you make change. Okay. Um, yeah, the system is great. You get to still have pizza and hamburgers. And like I had a croissant with ham and egg and cheese on it yesterday. And I had, not yesterday, the day before. See, I don't even like, it feels like I just ate yesterday and I didn't eat all day yesterday. But that gives me the freedom to have those foods when I want. But the truth of the matter is, we have to make some changes in order to see changes. And I am going to just clarify before I end off, even though I talked a lot about medications and their side effects, I am not a proponent of weight loss drugs. All of them have some pretty heavy side effects, and they're not teaching you what you did wrong or what happened wrong in your environment that got you to where you're at. So I would rather people understand how they got where they are, how they can fix that, what it takes to fix that, to really address the root cause of it, and not just band-aid fix. Oop, I lost the weight, but I didn't fix my diet, and now I still have this. I'm going to go be insulin resistant again. Now I have more fat cells to fill up. It's going to take longer for them to show that I was pre-diabetic again because there's more fat cells to store the energy in, yada, 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 yada. Big, long story. But I don't like that story. I like the story that says, okay, I'm going to take a more natural route. I'm going to support my body in doing the functions it's meant to do, but none of this forces the body to overproduce, which those drugs are forcing your body to overproduce. Notice insulin wasn't in there as a weight loss drug. Insulin was in there yesterday as a diabetic drug, but insulin wasn't in there as a weight loss drug. Go figure why so many insulin prescribed diabetic type 2s have weight issues. It's about the insulin. Okay, so the system is amazing. It's helped me through so many things, like all of the stuff above, the vertigo, the skin issues, skin tags, discoloration, headaches, migraines, feeling cold after I ate. Does anybody, this is just a curious question I like to ask every once in a while. Does anybody feel like they're cold or chilled after you eat? Because I used to ask that question all the time. I'm like, I get like chills. It feels like somebody poured cold water over me after I eat, and I don't understand what's happening. So it's likely reactive hypoglycemia, where your blood sugar spiked really high, but your insulin took the sugar and delivered it so quickly that your blood sugars drop. Now you're fatigued. You haven't switched into a glucagon mode yet, and your body is cueing you that you need energy. Your body's getting those goosebumps because it's trying to get energy, because all of that energy just got offloaded by insulin to wherever it could, and most likely fat cells. So if you're having that chill after you eat, that's a good indication that you have some insulin resistance going on, and you might want to address it. Okay, tomorrow, is there anything you guys wanted me to talk about tomorrow before I hop off this morning? If you're interested in the system, and I'm going to advocate for the system all day long over any drugs. Pamela, I missed you. How do you get involved? Richard, just message me. And you guys, that was a really good question. So I've been holding meetings on Tuesday nights to inform people how they can get involved in doing what I do, and not only change people's lives, but and your life, but change your life, and hopefully through this business model, change other people's lives as well. I see it happen all the time. My nurse friend Steph was able to quit her full-time job to do this and impact more people. So there's a phone number in my link tree. I'll put it in here. So use this there to get the WhatsApp number and message me, and we'll go over it. So Pamela has lost 2.5 stone. The first you came across this post, made you realize what you've been doing, and now I'm so happy and much fitter. Yay, Pamela! So you guys, it really is about education. The products are great, but if you're not educated about what's happening and why, this is why I spend so much time educating you guys, because I needed the education. I didn't understand why. I didn't understand why I should be consistent. I didn't understand. I was just, for me, I was back against the wall, like bad's gonna happen to me if I don't change something. This was the change that I gave a shot to after so many others, and it actually helped. So we will see you tomorrow morning. Anything you guys want, state what's happening again. Oh, so your blood sugars are going really high, but insulin, because it's so high, is taking those blood sugars and delivering them. So now your blood sugars internally are dropping. So your body's is kind of going into this mode where, hey, I need energy, I need sugar, but it's shutting down so that the core energy can also, all of that energy can be pulled to digest. You're having hypoglycemia, and it's a good indicator of insulin resistance, because the insulin is just too high and diverting that too quickly. Okay, so yeah, and as far as you guys, I don't talk about this much either, and I need to do better. The system is amazing. It costs about $5 a day, which is like $154 a month. But you get, if you have, and I was working with somebody last night who has 3 family members already who saw what's happening with him. They want to do the system. He gets a $10 credit for each one of them that buys every time they buy and do the system. And then you can turn that into a livable income if you want. And I can discuss that with you as well. So if you're ready to, yeah, you can have a blackout from your blood sugars being too low, and that's very dangerous. Yes, yes, yes. It's not that your insulin is low in that point in time. Your insulin is still high, and so you're probably having some hunger and you're continually spiking it. But then after you have, especially a big meal, you have those lows. So the biggest way to get over some of that is to just start addressing the insulin so it becomes more level. Again, this is why I love the system, because it's slowing down the delivery of those sugars into my system. So I'm not having those high spikes and deep lows. It just stays more consistent. And so I don't have chills. I don't have fatigue. I don't have that I want to curl up under a blanket, suck my thumb, and watch some nonsense show because I can't do anything else after I eat. I'm as well, reasonably as focused after I eat as not. And where before that was a very different. Insulin's role in PCOS. I sure do. And I'm about to hop off today, but I can tell you this. And if you want me to go over, PCOS seems to be one of the most common questions. So why don't we just do a full live on PCOS again tomorrow? But PCOS is just metabolic infertility. Metabolism is driven by insulin. Insulin is too high, causing a whole array of things to go wrong in the female reproductive system. And I can go over all of that in detail tomorrow. I want you to know this before you hop off today, Lana. Or is that your name? Lana, that I have a number of women, like at my age, and most of the women my age, it doesn't, we don't see it in the same way. But in a younger woman who's still suffering from painful long periods, from, maybe having hair on your face, from your hairline receding, mood disorders or mood swings, and weight that's coming on that you can't get off, and then you can't seem to get pregnant. I have a number of girls who have done the system and have reversed all of that. And actually, a few of them have started their families now, and their babies are at least a year old. And all they changed was by doing the system and getting their insulin under control, and their PCOS got under control as well. So we'll talk about PCOS in depth tomorrow and all the little mechanisms of why insulin is causing it, so you may better understand that. But sure, I do know a lot about insulin and PCOS. Oh, yeah. So, Richard, if you want to start the system, that same link I put in over on Facebook, just click that. That will take you to the link to purchase, and we can get you started. And here's the thing, when you start, also, I know I've been a little lax the last week or so, but I generally get out an email to you within 24 hours of a weekday, that, or a text that welcomes you. I give you a video on how to use the system. I send you texts throughout the first couple of months just to check up on you and make sure that you're getting what you need. And I spend a lot of my day on the phone with people, answering their questions and helping them through with whatever we're trying to get to, as far as using the system goes. So you get a lot of support. Just use the link tree link that I put in Facebook, YouTube. That should be up. And then here on TikTok, again, you're just going to go to my profile. When the white box comes up below, tap on that. When you get there, there's some red light symbols, and underneath that is a link. Now, I want to preface with saying I know I've been really frustrated because people have been saying your link's not working, your link's not working, your link's not working. There was a glitch with my website link, my personal website link, and I fixed those. And I had them tested yesterday and the day before, and all the links are working. So what could happen is, if you have like pop-up blockers or certain blockers, or you haven't cleared the cache on your phone or whatever, or you haven't updated your system, it could block you being able to use those links. But the links are all working. Can parasites and bacteria, overgrowth, and or yeast affect blood sugar? Well, I can do a little bit of research on that, but just let me work through my little quirky brain. What my mind originally goes to is those parasites and bacteria are causing you to be hungry for more sugar because that's what they feed on. So, in the fact that it's cueing you to eat more carbohydrate laden foods, yeah, it's going to affect your blood sugar, and you're going to feed more of those, and it's just a vicious cycle, right? So here's the thing too, when you get the insulin resistance under control, and if you have as many health issues as I had, and you want to take extra steps and do a 36 and 12 fast with me, I would welcome you to do that with the blessing of your physician. But that will help with parasite and bacteria overgrowth as well. Now, terp, I do a parasite cleanse about twice a year as well, because when there's inflammation in the body, it causes all kinds of havoc, and those parasites are causing inflammation, and it's just almost impossible not to get in contact with some of that in today's world and the food that we eat. So I do a parasite cleanse, but yeah, I mean, that's the simplistic answer I have today. So you cut out sugars and reduced carbs, no grains. And so, here's the other thing, you guys, I do want to say this. Some of those actions, like, yeah, cutting out sugars and reducing carbs, I'm agreeing with that. Grains probably as well, because most of our grains are so highly processed. You guys do not understand how much has happened to our grains, plus the fact, and I still eat, like I just said, I still have croissants and stuff. I'm not perfect, but we do need to understand that most of our grains have been soaked in glyphosates or Roundup, and that even though they say they're clean, the reason that is a problem is that I heard another scientist say that 90% of us have glyphosates in our urine, which means we're ingesting a ton of it. And when we're eating a diet high in grains, that's more likely to be you. You have a gluten sensitivity. So the gluten sensitivity to Turp Gucha, or Michael, um, is like when I got these fibers and started cleaning up my gut between the cleanse and doing the system that supports my gut, all of that got better, right? So the gluten sensitivity, because I used to have like severe diarrhea and weird gastrointestinal issues after, like, on the verge of thinking I was celiac, right? And I have family members that are celiac. But since I've taken care of my gut over the past 3 years with the system, I don't have those types of reactions anymore. Maybe if I ate a ton of the gluten products, I would. I do know, and it's interesting, that our standard American diet, our gluten is very different than gluten overseas, although we're leaching our products overseas as well. I remember taking a trip to France and having some pastries there, and this was before I started the system. So the same foods that would have had me knocked out with some kind of gastrointestinal pain or headaches or whatever, those same foods in France didn't affect me the same, but they don't use the same chemicals and stuff on their grains as we do. So it's a sad truth. Yep. And I think, personal opinion, no science backed, nothing. I'm not claiming anything, but I think that a big part of why we're so gluten sensitive in this nation is because of those glyphosates and additions to our wheat that we shouldn't be, or grains that we shouldn't be getting. That's my little take. Okay, guys, I got to hop off. I'm late for a call, and I will see y'all in the morning. We'll talk about PCOS, and we'll talk about a couple of other things that were mentioned today. Yeah, and different protocols work for different people. That's where I was going. Is I've heard more and more and more from you know, bigger minds than mine in the field, that a glucose monitor is really expensive, and I've not wanted to get one because I was just like, but I'm really actually thinking about getting one, at least for about a month, as I work my way through some foods and see how a particular food affects my own glucose levels, because it's different for everybody. So the only thing I have with most diets that go one way or the other, it may work great for a certain group of people and not work great for the other. One of the reasons I love the system is because you can really do it with any type of diet that you want to eat that you feel is healthier for you. It's just adding in those gaps in the nutrition that we have so our bodies can function properly. It's not any magic diet or magic thing. It's just filling in the gaps. I don't have a glucose monitor that I recommend because I haven't gotten one yet, and I'm going to do some research from people like Bickman and Mindy Pels. I think Mindy Pels has one that she recommends. You can check her out. But a continuous glucose monitor, at least for a short period in time, just to see how specific foods hit you, and maybe then it'll help you get your blood sugars under control along with everything else, right? If I have a slice of bread, it's going to react very differently in my glucose than it will with somebody else. And it's important to know that. Are you the person who can have that slice of bread? Or is it really spiking your blood sugar so high that you should not have it? Or bananas. Maybe bananas do okay with one person, but the next person, it's like toxic levels of glucose for you. So I think a glucose, I'm leaning more into getting a glucose monitor for those reasons, so that I can further dial down what I need to do to take care of my health as I get older and want to be around until my grandkids are my age. So I need to be around a while. So that means I got to take care, because I don't want to do this with a walker, a cane, or in a wheelchair and in pain every day. I want to do this healthy and happy and participating in their lives. Yeah. So metformin. Okay, let's talk about that a little bit too. So metformin, what we talked about yesterday. See, you guys you drag me in. No, I drag myself back in. Metformin. I went over it yesterday. I'll tell you this morning. There through some actions it has in the body. One of the things metformin does is it slows down. Had to verify that it's really me and that I'm not just live streaming a live stream, which I'm glad they're cracking down on. Anyway, it kind of negates the effects of exercise. So it doesn't allow you to put on muscle. So it's really inhibiting muscle growth as well as a number of other things that it does. Now, out of all of the anti-diabetic drugs, Dr. Bickman still feels it's the best one. But because it's slowing down this generation of muscle, it's really not a longevity type drug that should be used in the way people talk about it. So TGIF, you just go up to my profile link up above and tap on that. And I'll show you really quick. So if you go to my profile on TikTok, before I hop off here, we're gonna switch this around. So all right, there we are. So if you go to my profile here on TikTok, you'll see my picture here with the red glasses, and right below it is this info, and then right below that is the link tree. So if you tap on this link tree, that will open up the link to my landing page. And so that it's going to look like this. See, I just opened it. The link's working. Now, if you want to order the system, you'll click on the first one. If you just want to do the tea, which I have a lot of people who just drink the tea, you get a discount by doing a 2-pack, especially if you're doing more than 2 a day. That's there as well. My website, you can read more about both of the products and learn more. That's there. My ebook, which is free to you guys on the 6 simple steps, is here, but all of the information is here. Those of you who need to get a hold of me for whatever reason, you have questions, whatever, just use the contact me on WhatsApp. Please text though, because I'm on the phone or in meetings a lot. And so I can't always answer a phone call, but if I see a text, sometimes I can break away and text back or set up a time when we can talk. Okay, so there's all of that. Any other the clicking on this, sometimes, see, I just clicked on it and it opened up and it should say my name on the top. So I'm not sure which one takes you to a blank browser page. TGIF, was it my link tree link from my TikTok profile or when you clicked on the products? Sometimes the product page takes a minute to load up. You just want to make sure that it says Misha Fayon on top, and that's how you're going to know you're connected to me, and I'll be sending you all the information. If you go to Amazon, eBay, Walmart, you'll pay more. We found pirated products, expired products, all of that. There are no authorized distributors on those markets, and you don't get the guarantees. So I just clicked through both of them, and it was working. Let me add you, and I'll message you. Let's see if I can grab that link and put it here. If it will show up. Let's flip this around while I'm trying to get the link. And I know people don't want to have to go, but you can always just type in Misha Fayon on the internet and you'll find it there as well. There we go. Okay, let's see. Comment. I don't know if you guys can see that. I hope that link shows up there. It's the one that's in my profile. You should be able to get that to that, or here's my number if you just want to text me and I can directly send it to you. So there's that. Because yeah, I just had it tested yesterday and with some outside people who don't normally go through there and it's working. So not quite sure. I wish I could help with that. I want to help with that. So reach out to me one of those ways and we'll get it fixed. Until then, we'll talk to you guys in the morning. Have a great day. Bye guys. Bye Pamela. Oh, Richard. So with the 16 hours fasting, let me get this thing down. It's super easy and I will work through that with you. Okay. The 16 hours fasting is super easy and it doesn't have to be the same way I do it. The goal is just that you get the fast in. So you probably have a dinner meal at work, right? And after that dinner meal, you're just going to try not to do anything that's going to break your fast. So, no snacks, none of that. You can have a tea, you can have water, you could have coffee. But I think if you're coming home after a night shift, that you're probably sleeping during the day. So then you're just going to sleep through that fast. And then 16 hours after your dinner, even if your dinner's at 4 in the morning, 16 hours after is when you're going to have your next first meal. So if your dinner was at 4 in the morning and you're working until 6 or so, and then you go home and then you sleep for your few hours, 4 o'clock in the afternoon is 12 hours. And then that would be 8 o'clock in the evening for your breakfast meal, your first meal of the day, right? Because that's at 16 hours. But I work through that with you. It's easy to do. We have tons of shift workers and truck drivers and whatnot doing it, and they're just fine. So I'm going to put the link in here one more time. And then my phone number is on the bottom of this ticker too. You can just text me directly and I can answer you with anything that we need to answer for you and help you where I can. All right. You guys have a great day. We'll talk to you all tomorrow.